So when you're sewing, go around all the edges. And you keep going around. And you're trying to make them as consistent as possible. And it's just a learning curve. But if they're uneven, you pinch them together. Because if you get a wrinkle, it's fine. You just don't want them fluffy on the edges. So this is a little uneven, so I'm pinching it together as I work. You go all the way around with your blanket stitch. When you set up your stuffing, you're going to start the blanket stitch on a flat area. Don't do it around an ear or a wing or a foot. Do it on a nice flat area, and you're going to leave yourself about 2 fingers. Eyes up here, Cameron. Leave yourself about 2 fingers to stuff with. When you're stuffing, you're going to go all the way around your object. You're trying to get it as consistently as possible. When you find your string is doubling up, you just pull it through so it goes a little bit more, and so it doesn't double up, so it stays a single thread. You don't want to get much shorter than this because it takes a little bit longer to get a knot. But once you get to that opening part, you don't need to cut it off. We'll just finish sewing it in a minute. This is called poly filler, and you kind of separate it, or else you'll have like a really lumpy animal. And then you're going to start in the extremities first, and I gave popsicle sticks for that. And you don't want to like hurt it when you stuff it, because you don't want to pop these seams, because this felt will just pop. So I use 1 finger. This is why you want to leave about 2 fingers open, and I go to this foot. So I'm going to stuff that foot first. Then I'm going to put a little bit more in. And I probably could have left the opening up a little bit longer, a little bit wider, but I didn't. And I use the stick to get it in there. And then I'm going to do the wings. So I take the polyfill and I go into the wings. This is why I said that all your parts had to be as big as a finger, is because the stick is about a finger. So that's why I said you shouldn't have any little parts that are really, really skinny, because you wouldn't be able to stuff them. And it's okay, they'll just be flat. It's not a big deal. So I'm going to stuff this other wing. And you don't try to do big clumps, because then you just rip it. And then I'm going to do the ears. So I did all of the extras first, because then I'm going to fill in the center, okay? But once you fill in the center, you can't get around it to get there. I don't use a lot of fluff at a time. I just take it and I push it in with my fingers gently. If you want it really full, you can try to get as full as you can get it without popping the seam, and that's totally fine. And you want to go all the way to the top with it, because you don't want it to have a flat head or a flat side where it's empty at that point. And you keep fluffing it, you keep pulling it, and I'm filling around where it's empty, and I make sure I fill it to the top. Alright, now I'm going to close it up. I'm going to go all the way to my starting stitch, so stop and watch, please. So this is the blanket stitch. You go through the next one, it creates a hole, and you pull. And you try to do this consistently. If you get too close to the edge, it's just going to rip. But if you get too deep, it's not going to look good. So you try to find that happy medium where you get consistent looks. It's not coming together properly, so I'm pinching it so it will. And I will go through my first stitch. So I'm making it here. And I'm going to go exactly where this first stitch was. so I can end this with a proper stitch. And then this is the only time I'm going to make a little tiny knot in between the best I can without making it look terrible. So I'm going to go through here and make a tiny knot. I'm going through that back thread through, pull, back thread through. So I'm going through the back, and I'm making it that way because I can't get in between anymore because I've sewn it shut. And then this one I want to trim as close as possible so it doesn't have that string. And then I take a picture of it. I say, nailed it, on the picture. I submit it to my assignment. I put a piece of tape on it with my name on it. I put it in the drawer, and then you're done. You have a monster fluffy.